Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Friday the 22nd of September 2023. Last weekend, the trustees and I were at Isle of Wight Day. We had a Sight for White stand with games for the children and were there to raise awareness of the charity and, of course, some more vital funds. It was a really interesting day and thankfully the sun was shining. We met some wonderful people and a lot of the children who had a go at goal ball really enjoyed it. So a big thank you from me to the trustees who came along and those in the office who supported the event by getting everything ready. And of course to John, one of our volunteers, who came for the whole day as well. Coming up next week on Tuesday the 26th, we have our volunteers catch-up and feedback meeting at 10 till 12 o'clock here at Millbrook House. If you're a volunteer or are interested in volunteering, please do come along to us and we'll be able to tell you the opportunity we've got available, give you a catch-up and, of course, a piece of cake. Also, next week, I actually will be in Birmingham on the annual Visionary Conference. Visionary is a charitable organisation which the vast majority of local sight loss charities belong to. We meet once a year and get together and talk about what's going on, gain ideas from each other on how to help our members, and it really is an enjoyable time and a really good opportunity to look in on what other people are doing. It looks like the end of the sunny weather for a while at least, so everybody stay safe. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White.
Here is this week's charity news. Swimming is at Medina Leisure Centre every Monday during term time, between 1:15 and 2:15 p.m. This group is open to everyone, and even if you just want gentle exercise in the water, we have the use of the whole pool, so there is plenty of room for all to enjoy. Our IT drop-in resumes at Millbrook House on Monday, 9:30 a.m. until 12:30 p.m. This is now an appointment-only service, so please call the office and book a slot with Sam. On Monday, we have our fundraising meeting at Millbrook starting at 10 a.m. Everyone is welcome, but if you are unable to attend, please do send any ideas of fundraising to Susan so they can be discussed at the meeting. Fundraising is a vital part of the charity's work, and we are always looking for new ideas.
Yoga is Tuesdays between 1:45 and 2:45 p.m. at Millbrook House every week, and the cost is £4. Coffee and chat is on Wednesdays between 10 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. at Millbrook House. Please come along and meet the staff, volunteers and members for a chat and also to look at second-hand equipment, seek advice, etc. This is open to everyone. Our Eye on Social group is on Wednesday starting at 2 p.m. This month we welcome Gilly Wheeler, a very funny and talented island lady. Gilly is the author of several books and will be very entertaining and enjoyable afternoon.
On Friday the 29th, we have our Striders group. This group walk around various island locations and end with lunch at a pub. This is a very sociable group and always welcome new members to join. This month's stride is around the West White, taking in Tennyson Down and Hidden Warren. For more details, please do not hesitate to contact the office. On Friday the 29th, we have a pudding and quiz evening at Millbrook House, starting at 7 p.m. We invite teams of 4 people to join in, at the price of £5 per person, to include homemade pudding. This is a popular event, and with a maximum of 9 teams. Please call the office to book a table as soon as possible.
We are very pleased to announce we have been donated a beautiful hand-sewn quilt, which we have decided to raffle. You can buy a square for £2 from the office, The draw will take place on December the 13th. It is a king-size quilt. Looking further ahead, we are holding 2 bucket collections at the beginning of October and need help. On Wednesday the 4th of October, we are in Asda Store, Newport, between 10 a.m. and 2, and then on Saturday the 7th of October, we are at Freshwater Tesco Store between 10 and 1. If anyone can help or a family member to raise the profile, we would love to hear from you. Plans are underway for the Christmas draw, and as always, we are looking for donations for prizes. If you know anyone who you think would be willing to donate a prize or voucher, please once again get in touch with Susan.
Further details on any of the activities and events can be obtained by calling the office on 522205.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Dozens of Objections Lodged Against Proposal to Move Listed Whitwell Hydrant. Locals have lodged dozens of objections against plans to relocate a Grade 2 listed water hydrant as part of plans to enable a controversial housing development off Whitwell High Street. The hydrant, which dates back to 1887, is one of 8 to be found throughout Whitwell and Nettlecombe, known locally as Red Boys or Lions after the ornate lion head decorations to be found on them. This one is currently located within a stone wall on Whitwell High Street, and the applicant, Perry Properties, wishes to relocate it in order to comply with the access requirements requested by Island Roads in relation to their plans to build 22 houses on a field off the High Street. However, local residents, who have consistently objected to the development and have even formed a protest group, have so far lodged 24 objections to the proposed relocation of the hydrant, with more expected in the coming days. The applicant points out that the hydrant was originally in a different location and says that careful excavation will be undertaken prior to relocating the water hydrant to establish if the same is still connected to the pipework system, as this is currently unclear. Under the plans, the hydrant would be moved 1.5 metres north of where it is currently situated. You can view the plans and the objections on the Council's website.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. Island youth asked to take part in Crime Commissioner's Knife Crime Survey. Young people on the Isle of Wight are being asked to take part in a crucial survey exploring the perceptions of knife crime. The Office of the Police and Crime Commissioner's Violence Reduction Unit, VRU, is supporting the University of Portsmouth with a new study that investigates what we think about knife crime and its impact on our feelings of safety. The insight will be used to gain further understanding on how to help people in communities devastated by knife crime and offer a fresh approach to tackling serious violence and its root causes. Police Crime Commissioner Donna Jones said, "A zero-tolerance approach on knife crime is one of the priorities in my police and crime plan, because we must do all we can to stop this disease that's taking hold within communities up and down the country. This survey is for everyone, but in particular young people need to have their voices heard, and that's why I want to hear from those aged between 12 and 25 years old, so you can have your say on knife crime, and this informed research will then enable us to move forward together to crack down on this devastating epidemic. There are already many activities and interventions that are carried out across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight to raise awareness and combat knife crime, And just this month, a pioneering drama scheme exploring the risks and impact to children in schools for the next 2 years began. But there is so much more intervention to be explored, so many more ideas that can be investigated, and that's why this survey is a vital part of the puzzle that will unlock a fresh and informed approach to knife crime. So I would urge you all to get involved and have your say. Respondents to the survey, which is anonymous, are asked a range of questions, including whether they think knife crime is being tackled where they live, who they believe is responsible for fighting knife crime, what they think are the reasons behind someone committing violence in their community, and where they think violent offences are more likely to take place. The VRU champions a public health approach and brings together local partners in policing, education, health and local government under the umbrella of the Violence Reduction Partnership to identify and tackle violent crime in our communities, address its underlying causes, and steer vulnerable children and adults away from a life of crime and violence. Police Crime Commissioner Donna Jones added, "Serious violence is a complex issue, and the opportunity to hear from as many people as possible through the Knife Crime Survey will provide valuable insight and help everyone understand more on how communities impacted by knife crime can be informed and helped so that we can all feel safer and be safer." The Knife Crime Survey can be accessed at Young People's Experiences of Knife Crime, alchemer.eu. There is also information within the survey on support services available for any respondent affected by knife crime.
This is Chris reading an article from the Island Echo. 2023 Isle of Wight Book Awards, Grand Literary Lunch to be held in Cowes. The public is invited to attend the second Isle of Wight Book Awards Grand Literary Lunch at the Island Sailing Club in Cowes on the 3rd of October. Now affiliated with the Isle of Wight Literary Festival, the launch will be the initial event of this year's festival. From a healthy selection of entries of books published in 2022, the 3 category judges, best-selling authors Georgina Moore for fiction, Alan Titchmarsh, children's, and Hunter Davis, non-fiction, have each selected their top 3 titles. All 9 on the shortlist will receive a certificate, with the winner of each category receiving £200. The Book of the Year will receive an additional £500. The judges will award the prizes following a 3-course meal and a presentation from this year's selected charity Independent Arts, an organisation that for over 35 years has been doing a fantastic job of using the arts to help and support some of the most vulnerable people on our island, from the young to the elderly. Funds for the charity will be raised by a raffle, with a chance of winning one of the many great prizes, including a family ticket to Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary, Chase Gin Collection from the Wine Therapy, a selection from the Island Gin Company, a £50 gift card for the Garden Restaurant in Cowes, and a selection of books from Medina Bookshop. The objective of the awards is to encourage new and established authors to keep writing and developing their art, breathing fresh life into the island's rich literary heritage. Last year's awards proved that you don't have to be a novelist with a big publisher to win prizes, with all 3 winners being either self-published or with small imprints. Tickets for this year's awards are available to all at £37.50 and include a glass of fizz on arrival and a 3-course meal. The event should last around 3 hours and tickets can be purchased from the Island Sailing Club.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. On the rise again. Notable increase in cases of COVID-19 identified at St Mary's Hospital. COVID-19 admissions to St Mary's Hospital are increasing, but none are the new variant that has hit the headlines. It comes after a warning from senior health officials the island could see a greater level of COVID-19 cases this winter than last year. When patients arrive at St Mary's Hospital in Newport, they are tested for COVID-19, and so far, in the last 3 months, the Isle of Wight NHS Trust has seen an increase in patients presenting with COVID-19 each month. Speaking at a meeting of the Isle of Wight NHS Trust Board last week, Medical Director Steve Parker said he did wonder whether the coughs and sneezes around at the moment were unidentified COVID-19 cases. He said, as a country, we were now living with the viral infection, where testing, reporting and isolation have been reduced. Dr. Parker said in June there were 9 COVID-19 admissions to St Mary's, followed by 16 in July and 33 in August, a trend which mirrored the national picture. Of the COVID-19 infections at the hospital, until the end of August, Dr. Parker said there were a range of variants, but none were the new gene, which health bodies have said is the most concerning one since Omicron was first detected at the end of 2021. The NHS has rolled forward its winter booster COVID-19 vaccination programme to protect the most vulnerable from illness and reduce the potential impact it may have on the health service. St Mary's Vaccination Clinic opened earlier this week. To book your COVID-19 vaccine, you can do so via the NHS website at www.nhs.uk/COVID-19-vaccination/ via the NHS app or by phoning the COVID-19 number 119.
This is Alison reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Cost of Council Provided School Transport Going Up Despite Numbers Falling. Fewer children are being taken to school via Isle of Wight Council provided transport, but the cost has risen. In 2012, the council paid £3.6 million to take 2,317 pupils to school, but this year paid £700,000 more, £4.3 million to transport 1,614 pupils. The island's authority is looking at ways of saving money, as the council is already over budget this financial year due to increased demand for special educational needs (SEN) transport. At the moment, only 9.7% of school pupils, 1,614, are eligible for school transport. 1,111 mainstream pupils on Southern Vectis school buses and 503 SEN pupils on a mix of taxi and minibus provision. In mainstream schools, the number of children eligible for transport has fallen by 44% in the last 10 years, from 1,992 to 1,111, and costs have reduced from £2.9 million to £1.9 million. This is because of the removal of catchment areas in 2015 and the opening of the Island Free School in Ventnor. Outside the mainstream provision, over the same period, the number of SEN children needing transport has doubled, from 169 to 352, increasing costs by £1.25 million to £1.7 million. The council has said pressures have come from a shortage of places at dedicated SEN schools, meaning pupils have to travel further, a large number of EHCP plans, and the need for adapted vehicles. The council's demand modelling indicates transport could be provided for 461 SEN pupils by 2027, and costs could rise to £5.7 million for all children by 2026. Speaking at a Children's Education Scrutiny Committee earlier this month, officers said they needed support from central government, delegating responsibility for transport policy to local authorities. The council is operating close to a statutory minimum of service, officers have said, and it is going to be impossible to solve problems without statutory change from government. Officers said they also needed help reinforcing the fact, in most cases, it is the parents' responsibility to take their children to school. Stuart Ashley, the council's interim Children's Services Director, said it was a national challenge, and while he would be happy to provide more home-to-school transport, it has to be funded, for which the council doesn't have the money.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. Final Phoenix Choir Concert of the Year to be held in Arreton. The last Phoenix Choir Concert for 2023 will take place on Saturday the 30th September at St George's Church in Arreton. The choir will be singing songs from The Lion King, Singing in the Rain, Titanic, Top Hat, Cabaret and Phantom of the Opera. Other songs will include Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, Elvis Presley's An American Trilogy, and Ray Charles' I Can't Stop Loving You. Classical spot of the evening is One Fine Day from Puccini's opera Madame Butterfly. The performance starts at 7:30 p.m. Admission is free, with a retiring collection in aid of new doors for the coach house, which is situated a few yards from the church. The coach house is used for social events and has catering and other facilities not available in the church itself.
This is Chris, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Ancient woodland now protected from development thanks to Baden-Powell purchase. Ancient woodland near the Isle of Wight's coast has been protected from development and saved by a member of the Baden-Powell family. The land at Love Lane in Bembridge has now been bought after auction by local resident Imogen Baden-Powell, the great niece of Robert Baden-Powell, who founded the Scouts. In 2021, controversial plans were lodged to build 2 eco-holiday lodges on the site, but were met with community uproar, sparking more than 300 objections. After the plans were rejected by the government's planning inspectorate, the land was put up for sale earlier and bought by Ms. Baden-Powell to return the site to nature, saving it from being crushed. Having grown up in the jungles of Malaya, swinging on vines and climbing trees, and realizing children in England don't have the same opportunities to do so, she wanted to make a difference in honour of her father, who enjoyed nature as much as she did. When Ms. Baden-Powell heard the site was for sale, she thought it was her chance to do something. She said, protecting the land on the island's coastal path and stop it from being developed. Before it is open to the public, a nature reserve is being created, which will be called Pops Woods, and will be a place where the community can enjoy the space. Working with local gardener and nature warden for the site, Phil Sard, so far trees have been planted and bug hotels, bird boxes and a hedgehog house have been installed to help wildlife thrive. Speaking about the project, Mr. Sard said they wanted to create something to stop future development and nature being ripped apart, making a sanctuary for people. Mr. Sard feared if they didn't take on the site, it would eventually have houses built on it at a time when he felt the island was being overdeveloped. He also felt if they could transform the land in Bembridge, it would inspire others to do the same. Mr. Sard said, it is not going to be created overnight, but an ongoing process. We wanted to create a place where people can connect, find peace and be free.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Council say they can't do it all at once as school place planning issues continue. Isle of Wight Council officers have said staff cannot solve the issue of surplus school places and build a new children's services department at the same time. Head teachers and governor's representative, Simon Richards, said it was disappointing the castle could not tackle both things at once. At a meeting last Thursday, he accused leading council cabinet members of dragging their heels and said the issue of surplus places was first raised over a year ago. Mr. Richards said inaction meant education was suffering. The Isle of Wight Council has been in partnership with Hampshire County Council for a decade, but that will end on the 31st of January and the island's authority will go it alone. Outgoing leader, Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox, said, we need to look at ways to effectively manage the empty spaces issue. Inevitably, this will involve the closure of some schools. This is not an easy course to take. In particular, it relies on information, understanding, consideration, and if necessary, acceptance that there is no other alternative.
This is Alison reading an article from the Isle of Wight Radio entitled Eastern Cliffs Esplanade Works Pass Key Milestone in Ventnor. Piling work as part of the Isle of Wight Council's project to restore sea defences at Ventnor's Eastern Cliffs Esplanade has reached the halfway stage. The King piling has successfully passed the damaged section of sea wall and is now protecting the collapsed section and the southern water main sewer. The project remains ahead of programme, with 78 out of 152 King piles installed, helping to protect local homes and businesses. Once the piling is complete later this year, the Council's attention will turn to repairing the promenade to make it safe for people to use again. The planned reopening date is currently spring 2024. However, progress over the winter months will be heavily dependent on the weather. While weather downtime has been factored into the programme, the site is very exposed and successive storms will present a challenge for the team. Councillor Paul Fuller, Cabinet member responsible for coastal protection, said the council was extremely grateful for the support of Ventnor Town Council, which has partnered on the project. He added, "I am delighted to report that progress continues ahead of schedule and that we have now passed a number of key milestones. As a result of the work completed so far, we anticipate no further movement or damage to the current sea wall, which I'm sure is great news to the local community. I'd like to thank everyone for their patience, understanding and support during this very necessary work. We will continue to provide regular updates via our residents' newsletter and face-to-face community meetings, which I know are very popular." The council closed part of the esplanade last November after a large hole and cracks appeared in the sea wall just beyond Ventnor Skate Park. More information about the project is available on the council's website.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. 11 new on-call firefighters set to join their local stations following training. A new group of on-call firefighters have successfully completed their initial training course and will now return to their local communities where they will help respond to incidents. The 8 new recruits were assessed by the Learning and Development LD trainers based at Ryde Fire Station. They were tested on their ladder pitching and hose reel jet skills and will continue their firefighter development with their stations and with future courses with the L&D team. Firefighters Michael Budgeon, Aaron Lacey and Kieran Konchansky-Dry will return to their Isle of Wight stations at Ventnor, Ryde and Sandown. Station manager Tim Clapp said, "From the start, the 8 firefighters demonstrated an excellent attitude and respect for everyone, while displaying their enthusiasm throughout their training. Everyone worked as a team, putting in a tremendous amount of effort and performing well. As I met with the firefighters to welcome them into the service, they expressed how happy they were with how the course had been run and delivered by the Learning and Development team in Ryde. They are now looking forward to joining their stations across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, where they will continue to progress further with their training and development. On-call firefighters train in several modules during their development, attending a weekly drill night and make themselves available for agreed hours around jobs, family responsibilities and other commitments. The firefighters come from across the county and from all walks of life. They are alerted to incidents via a pager, responding to their nearby station to jump on the fire engine."
This is Chris reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Police and Crime Commissioner calls on tech firms to prioritise safety over privacy. The Police and Crime Commissioner for the Isle of Wight and Hampshire is calling for tech companies to prioritise the safety of children over user privacy. Concerns have been raised by technology experts and leading child abuse charities that end-to-end encryption on private messages could be used to conceal child abuse online. Leaders are calling for social media platforms to provide assurance that they will keep their platforms safe from abusers. In response, PCC Donna Jones said, "Protecting children and vulnerable people is the first job of any government." The new online safety bill was passed on Tuesday this week, meaning it is now law. This brings greater protection for children, putting the onus on social media companies to check the minimum age of users and to ensure that targeted content is age appropriate. Breaches of the new laws will see social media companies paying large fines. I'm pleased to have worked with the government on the creation of this new law, but acknowledge that this is just the start. Parents need to ensure they know what their children are doing online. There is more threat from harm for a child sitting in their bedroom with a phone than walking down the road alone. The National Crime Agency has mapped there are over 700,000 individuals accessing and viewing indecent images of children online. That's 1 in 70 people in this country. This is a huge risk and one which police forces across the country are working hard to combat. The safety of our children online must come above any privacy concerns for users, and we must see social media platforms stepping up to implement safeguards at every opportunity. The Online Safety Bill passed its final parliamentary debate on the 19th of September and is now ready to become law. The bill takes a zero-tolerance approach when it comes to protecting children online, meaning social media platforms will be legally responsible for the content that they host, and they will be expected to remove illegal content quickly or prevent it from appearing in the first place.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Cowes Enterprise College officially green after Eco Council work. Students at Cowes Enterprise College, which is sponsored by Ormiston Academies Trust, known as OAT, have once again earned a distinction in the coveted Green Flag Award as part of their work with the Academy's Eco Council. The internationally acclaimed Green Flag Award, granted by Eco Schools, celebrates the environmental accomplishments of youth, highlighting the significance of their dedicated efforts. This accolade also acknowledges their contributions towards fostering a greener and more sustainable school environment. Eco Schools, in their assessment, lauded the students' unwavering commitment to environmental preservation and their proactive participation in sustainability projects. Their collaborative approach, involving a diverse array of school community members, reflects an inclusive ethos. The Green Flag Award recognises Cowes Enterprise College students' strategic planning, evident in projects such as beach cleans and the creation of a remembrance garden. Achieving a distinction underscores the remarkable impact of the Eco Council's community-oriented actions, amplifying awareness and commitment to environmental stewardship. Eco Schools England manager Adam Flint said, "The Eco Schools Green Flag Award is an internationally recognised symbol of high environmental standards. The pupils and school staff that earn the award deserve immense credit for their hard work, determination and creativity. Their passion for protecting our planet is an inspiration to us all. Cowes Enterprise College principal Rachel Kitley said, "Securing the Eco Schools Green Flag Award demands enthusiasm, dedication, and a resolute intention to create an impact. The remarkable achievements of our students are a source of immense pride. Their unwavering commitment serves as an inspiration, filling us with hope for the future of our planet."
Good morning. My name is Mary.
And my name is Gerard. We begin with news items taken from the County Press and the Observer. We'll work together, insists Council leader. The new leader of the Isle of Wight Council has pledged to do everything he can to work together with councillors across the authority, after his group was criticised for a lack of action and collaboration. Councillor Phil Jordan secured the Alliance administration's position at the top of the Isle of Wight Council. After Wednesday's deadlock, vote to choose a new leader was broken by Chair Councillor Claire Crittison. Councillor Jordan beat Conservative hopeful Councillor Susie Ellis, and Councillor Laura P.C. Wilcox officially resigned earlier in the day. After the meeting, Councillor Jordan said he was elated and excited about the big challenge ahead of him, acknowledging there were tough decisions to make and lots of problems to solve. He said continuity was key, so projects that have already been started or delivered and do not fall by the wayside. Answering some of the disquiet heard in the council chamber, Councillor Jordan said it was clear councillors were interested in a more collaborative approach. He said the Alliance had already started to have conversations with the other groups about how they can work together. Conservative Councillor Paul Brading said the Alliance had not delivered nor tackled difficult decisions, adding the Council needed a long overdue leadership change and voted for Councillor Ellis. Councillor Tig Outlaw also voted for Councillor Ellis, said the Alliance had sat on its hands by not dealing with the issue of surplus places in primary school and had failed the island's children. However, Councillor Richard Quigley believed the Conservatives had no meaningful plan to better the life of islanders and voted for Councillor Jordan. Councillor Carl Love, who caused the vote to fall to deadlock by abstaining, said the Council had failed to work together and had instead focused on tribal party politics rather than representing the people they were elected by. Moving forward, Councillor Jordan has not ruled out a cross-party cabinet, but said no decision had been made yet. He said it was something the current cabinet would be discussing in the coming weeks. He said the group would engage with the other councillors that are not part of the Alliance.
Stop. This is almost identical to what he's just read. Do I still have to read it? Playing both sides. Some Tories suggest this newspaper is anti-Tory. We're not. And to make that clear, on July the 21st, we welcomed the election of Susie Ellis, their new council group leader, with a positive front-page story. She said she would work with other councillors, put the island and islanders first, and end the bickering at County Hall. Just 1 month later, she tabled a motion of no confidence in council leader, Councillor P.C. Wilcox. We were contacted by a number of people who told us that Councillor Ellis had been talking to both the Liberal Democrats and the Alliance about joining them. It became apparent that she had not told either side that she was speaking to the other. On August the 25th, we reported that she had taken part in those talks. Councillor Ellis did not contact us about our report, but told her group that it was untrue. Some of them told us about it. Last week, we asked Councillor Ellis whether she disputed what we had reported. She replied, "I have not been in negotiations about joining either the Alliance or the Liberal Democrats group." We checked and were told more about her meeting with the Liberal Democrats. It took place when Councillor Ellis was planning to ditch the Tories. She was working in the Conservative Association office at the time, so was looking for another job. Somewhat surprisingly, the meeting at which she discussed her defection was both organised and attended by former council leader David Pugh, now chairman of the Isle of Wight Conservative Association. At least one member of the Tory group also believes David Pugh is writing much of her correspondence, pointing out that former Tory group leader Steve Hastings, who resigned in October 2022, admitted in July 2021 that a letter which went out in his name to Councillor P.C. Wilcox had been drafted by David Pugh. We put these points to Councillor Ellis and David Pugh yesterday. Neither commented. If Councillor Ellis wants to dispute our story, we invite her to complain to our regulator, Impress. It will cost her nothing, and we can supply to them all the evidence we have that backs up our story. Impress can both find the Isle of Wight Observer and instruct us to print an apology if they find we have not followed their standards code. We are not anti-Tory. There are some very good Conservative members on the Isle of Wight Council, but the Isle of Wight Observer is certainly in favour of straight-talking politicians. Councillor Ellis might reflect that being caught out trying to play both sides leaves you with few friends.
Have your say on decisions. Do you want to influence the way decisions are made at the Isle of Wight Council? We are being asked to share our views on how councillors can improve their decision-making and become more inclusive as part of a look into the way the county hall works. A review is underway into its leader and cabinet system, which sees a few councillors making decisions for the whole island. Councillor Jeff Brodie, who put forward the proposals in July, said he felt the cabinet model fails to involve all elected councillors in decision-making. It could mean a return to a committee system, which would mean decisions would be made by more councillors in a specific political balanced teams. The Future Governance Working Group is now seeking the views of islanders, asking how well they think the current system engages residents and whether they think their local representatives can influence decisions that in turn affect voters. If you want to share your thoughts, contact your elected Isle of Wight Council representatives by the 31st of October. The working group will report back with its findings in January.
Body found in search for woman. A major search for a woman missing from Bembridge ended with a body being found on Tuesday. The discovery was made by officers searching the Culver Down area, Hampshire, and the Isle of Wight Constabulary confirmed. A search for missing Gillian Burns was launched on Monday. The 64-year-old was last seen at her home address at 10 p.m. the previous day, Sunday. Police and Bembridge and Ventnor Coast Guard rescue teams were among those searching. They were joined by Sandown and Shanklin Lifeboat and Bembridge RNLI, with both patrolling the coastline. White SAR, the island's volunteer search and rescue team, was also called to help with searches on land. Search teams focused on areas of woodland on Culver Down and the beaches below the cliff. Officers investigating told the county press that formal identification of the body has not been completed. However, they said Gillian's family have been made aware. The death is not being treated as suspicious.
Biker 70 in road tragedy will be greatly missed. The family of a motorcyclist who died in a crash on the military road have paid tribute to him. Robert Foreman from Carisbrook suffered serious injuries in the collision last month. The 70-year-old's family released a statement. My husband Robert Ian Foreman, fondly known as Ian, was a wonderful husband, father, and grandfather. He was loved by all who knew him, and he will be greatly missed. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary was called to a single vehicle collision on Military Road near Whale Chine on Wednesday, the 16th of August at 3:23 p.m. A blue Honda motorcycle left the carriageway and came to rest in a roadside ditch. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance, police, firefighters and paramedics all responded to the incident. Robert's family are being supported by specialist officers. This collision remains under investigation. Anyone with information should contact police on 101.
40k target reached to fight housing. A campaign group has hit its fundraising target to fight a major island housing development in court. Save Westridge Farm said it needed to raise £40,000 to take the Isle of Wight Council to court over grievances with the way Captivate Homes' West Acre Park planning application was handled. The council has previously disagreed with the campaign and said there was nothing wrong with the way the decision was made for the approval of 473 new homes. The group, which was started in 2021 to save the former dairy farm site on the outskirts of Ryde, has now had £39,570 in donations from 739 pledges. Last Friday was the group's last chance to appeal the decision and submit a judicial review. Applications have to be made within 6 weeks of planning approval being granted. Posting on its Facebook page, the campaign said hitting the target was historic, and it was now able to seek the judicial review which it had been fighting for so long. The group said, "We must continue to protect this important greenfield site for the island community and as a habitat for endangered species." The campaign believes there are many wrongdoings and errors in the way the application was determined. It has sent a letter to the Isle of Wight Council outlining what it believes to be the legal issues with the application and decision-making process. They include the conduct of the planning meeting where the application was first approved was unlawful, and the council's approach to a Section 106 planning obligation was unlawful. The council has previously denied any wrongdoing. The group also alleges the conduct of Councillor Jeff Brodie in his involvement of the decision-making process was tainted by apparent bias or by an improper motive. Councillor Brodie said he did not wish to comment. The campaign says even though it has reached the milestone, It will continue to fundraise for the next phase, which would cover court costs. Before it can reach the High Court in London, a judge has to accept there is a case for judicial review.
Quack thinking saves duck. 2 Isle-of-Wight plumbers pulled off a quacking rescue after a duck got stuck in a drain. Newport-based Underground Service Engineering was called to a farm in Sanford on Saturday night. Instead of ducking responsibility, drainage engineer Cole Grundy and company director Fraser Lowe came up with a plan. They were able to use their trusty CCTV camera to find the stricken bird. They said, instead of just winging it, we decided to be the beacon of efficiency and dove right in. They said, in no time the bird was safely rescued from the drain line. They are now taking steps to ensure that no more ducks can waddle into trouble, they said.
Pedestrian serious. A man was taken to hospital with serious injuries following a crash in Kelburn on Saturday night. Officers were alerted to the incident at around 10 p.m. They were responding to reports of a collision involving a Mitsubishi Colt and a pedestrian on the B3401 near its junction with Sun Hill. The Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance was among the emergency service teams called to the scene. The pedestrian, a man in his 30s, suffered serious injuries. He was taken to Southampton General Hospital for treatment. No arrests were made, police have confirmed.
The school set to close due to falling roll. The clock is officially ticking on the future of an island primary school after a notice for its closure was published. In just over 100 days, Chillerton and Rookley Primary School is proposed to shut, amalgamating with its fellow Stanbury Federation facility, Godsill Primary School. The closure is due to come into force on the 31st of December, although objections can still be made. The future of the primary school was first put under review in February 2022, but has since struggled to recruit teachers and bring pupils into the school. Despite having the potential space to teach 91 pupils between the ages of 3 and 11, the school only has 8 children enrolled. They have all been taught at Godsill Primary School since January, due to there being no teacher at Chillerton. The official notice says the closure is being proposed due to a significant decline in pupil numbers at the school in the past 5 years, with no reception pupils starting in September. The lack of pupils has hit Chillerton and Rookley financially. Since April 2016, the school has had an unresolved deficit budget. The public notice was established on Friday, September the 15th, starting a 6-week consultation period where anyone can object or make comments on the proposals, which can be obtained from County Hall in Newport. Comments can also be sent to County Hall by email at sendlebusinesssupport@isleofwight.gov.uk.
New homes planned for Village Gap. Another major development is proposed on the edge of 2 Isle of Wight villages, but an 11-hectare green space could be opened to the public to ensure the villages do not merge. More than 100 homes could be added to the built-up environment at the top of Cowes, as well as a suitable alternative natural space, SANG. The plans have been submitted by Jordan Valley Estates, which is behind other housing developments in the area. The proposed site sits between Gurnard and Northwood, behind Cockleton Lane, Place Road and Tuttons Hill. Outline consent is being sought for the residential development, up to 117 houses, flats or masonettes, which would agree to the principle of houses on that site and access to it. Full planning permission is being sought for the Sang, which would be a preserved, public open space to retain the visual separation between Gurnard and Cowes. Planning agents BCM say on behalf of Jordan Valley Estates. The Jordan Valley is seen by residents to play an essential role in maintaining the identity of Gurnard. Planning documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council by BCM say the Sang could offer the public benefit of protecting Gurnard's identity in perpetuity. You can view the application 23/01430/FUL on the Isle of Wight Council's planning register. Comments can be made until October the 6th.
Council split on services for children. It's official. Hampshire and the Isle of Wight will stop working together to provide children's services on the island after a decade-long partnership. The Isle of Wight Council will now build its own children's service department with new leaders, but buy back services from Hampshire County Council to ensure a smooth transition. Senior island councillors agreed on Thursday that the current partnership agreement will end on the 31st of January 2024, and all parts of the service, including education, will be brought back under the authority's control. The joint working began when the Isle of Wight Council Children's Services offer was rated inadequate by Ofsted, but it has since been rated good. The buyback services, which would come from Hampshire County Council, include access to the multi-agency safeguarding hub and school improvement services.
Kitchen fire alert in restaurant. Smoking Jacks by name, smoking Jacks by nature. That's the reaction from one Isle of Wight pub after a small fire broke out in its kitchen on Sunday night. Crews from Newport, Shanklin and Sandown were all called to Smoking Jacks on Wroxall High Street at around 8 p.m. 2 breathing apparatus, 2 hose reel jets, a covering jet and a short extension ladder were all used to bring the fire under control. Reacting to the situation, a spokesman for the business said, "Our kitchen has had a small fire and is currently being dealt with by the wonderful fire brigade." Well, Smoking Jacks by name, Smoking Jacks by nature. In a message to customers later in the week, Smoking Jacks management said, "Just to update you all, the clean-up is done, new beam is in, so shouldn't be too long before we see you all again."
Black van sought after grab. A suspicious incident saw a 10-year-old girl approached by a stranger in Cowes on Saturday evening, police said. Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary has confirmed it is investigating the incident, which happened at some point between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. The girl had been playing with friends on Fellows Road when she was approached by a bold man who tried to grab her arm, the force said. The girl was not hurt and ran off. The man drove away in a black van towards Victoria Road. The incident was reported to police on Monday, the 18th of September. Officers have been carrying out enquiries in the area and are reviewing CCTV to establish what happened. We have not received any other similar reports in the area, a spokesperson said. Anyone with information is asked to call 101.
Chocks away as plane firm thinking big. Aircraft manufacturer Britten-Norman plans to quadruple its output over the next couple of years, with workers based at its hangars in Bembridge. Yesterday, Thursday, it formally opened its new production line and revealed there is already interest from firms in Malta, India and Australia. Meanwhile, the first aeroplane from its reinvigorated island base will go to the Falkland Islands. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley cut the ribbon, alongside the group's chief executive William Hynett, who said the aim was to build British and export to the world. The firm is already successful in doing so, with 97% of its products sent across the globe. The iconic Islander has been flying since 1965, and although it has undergone 2,000 modifications since then, the basic design is true to the original and is fondly referred to as the Land Rover of the skies. William Hynett said Islanders are exported to far-flung locations, including remote Pacific Islands, Canada and South Africa. Historically, they were manufactured in Romania, which has resulted in logistic challenges when it comes to getting Solent-based staff out to check on the work. Now the process will be streamlined. Mr. Seeley said it was brilliant that technical positions are being kept local. It is really important to have skilled manufacturing on the island. I am delighted we are inshoring. We will do it better and we will probably do it at less global environmental cost than other countries. Also on hand for the official launch were Alex Norman, whose dad, Desmond Norman, was half of the pioneering duo behind Britten-Norman. He said, "Dad would have been utterly delighted and quietly satisfied. If you get something right, it stays right." Here we are, almost 60 years after the first flight, still going strong. He and John Britten would have delighted production has moved back to Bembridge, where it all began. James Morton is the nephew of co-founder John Britten. Of the Islander, he said, "You've got a strong, steady platform. It's never going to let you down, and you can put whatever you want in it, whether it's parachutist or medical staff. To see it coming back to life at Bembridge is just brilliant. My uncle would have been chuffed to nuts. He really would."
Attractions company defends fewer hours. It was always planned for Blagging Chine to close Monday to Thursday through most of September and October, the company behind the Isle of Wight attraction said. The firm has come in for criticism from holders of frequent visitors pass, who claim the terms and conditions have been changed following the unexpected closure of Robin Hill. Dozens of workers were let go, as the county press revealed on its front page, when the Down End Park shut before the end of the expected visiting season, and pass holders were told they could visit Blagging instead. However, it is only open Friday to Sunday, except during October half-term. Last year, according to its website, Blagging was open daily from August the 30th through to October half-term. Meanwhile, Robin Hill's polar event has been reduced to 5 days in December, but this is only because the popularity of a new event, said Vectis Ventures. One frequent visitor passes holder told the county press they had spent £99 on a pass for both parks, but were unable to visit Blagging during the week. She said she was insulted by a consolatory offer of £10 to be spent at Blackgang, and which is almost equivalent to the amount by which a joint FVP rose for 2023. Vectis Ventures said its 2023 Friday to Saturday Blackgang operating hours had been advertised on its website and have not changed. A spokesperson added there had already been midweek closures during the off-peak season at the beginning of the year. The dates of the December Polar event have been reduced after being previously advertised for selected dates between December the 9th to December the 20th. Instead, it will run between December the 20th and 24th. A spokesperson said, "This is to free up further availability for our newly launched Woodland Christmas parties, which have proved to be incredibly popular, selling out on our initially planned 4 dates within weeks." Vectis Ventures blamed the weather, the economy, and a challenging summer for the Robin Hill closure.
Restaurant evacuated in fire alert incident. An Isle of Wight steakhouse had to be evacuated after an alarming amount of smoke filled the restaurant. Firefighters were called to the Alamo on Ryde Esplanade on Wednesday evening. Smoke was coming from the ladies' toilets, leading staff to ask customers, some of whom had yet to eat, to exit the buildings as a safety precaution. In an effort to clear things up, the restaurant issued a statement explaining what caused the smoke. A spokesman said, after thorough investigation from the fire brigade, it was concluded that the smoke was coming from the extraction that hadn't been cleaned properly. The restaurant said cleaners had been in the days prior to the incident. A spokesman added, "We would like to apologise to customers that had to be evacuated, especially in the rain and especially to the tables that had to leave without being fed. We would also like to thank our staff whose quick actions to ensure our customers' safety was exactly what we would expect." White memories and nostalgia. TV star to lift lid on Cray twins. Journalists from around the world had for years tried to interview infamous crime twins, the Crays, but failed. All except one man, local television presenter Frank Dinage, who will lift the lid on the terrible, fascinating secrets he managed to unlock from them. The ex-Meridian Tonight anchor, 81, will bring his new show, Ronnie, Reggie and Me, his definitive insight into the lives of Britain's most notorious gangsters, to Shanklin Theatre on October the 19th. Fred, now retired, was a friendly face on the South's television screen spanning 7 decades. The popular presenter would provide a rare insight to the Crays' criminal activities, their lavish lifestyle, A-list celebrities they socialised with, and their lives behind bars. But if that isn't interesting enough, Fred will talk about how, by chance, the opportunity to interview them fell into his lap. Fred went on to pen the London gangline bosses' autobiographies. About 35 years ago, TVS programme Coast to Coast ran a story on a man's efforts to raise money for hospital equipment. A few days later, Fred received a letter from Reggie Cray, franked HMP Parkhurst, offering to help by commissioning prisoners to paint pictures for auction, including one of his own. Reggie's was brightly coloured of boxers in a ring, childlike really, and signed R. Cray. The pictures made thousands. A Sotheby's expert looked at them. Reggie loved his opinion and wrote to me again saying, "If you're ever on the island, come and see me." An invitation I couldn't refuse.
I went to Parkhurst, and that's how things started. It was extraordinary. Unhappy by the way other writers had falsely portrayed him and Ronnie, Reggie asked if he knew anybody who could write their story. I'd never written a book, but found myself saying, I could do that. Reggie said, I'd have to meet Ronnie in Broadmoor, and if he likes you, you can do it, but if he does not, you can't. Fred got the green light and became one of the few allowed into their inner circle, gaining an unparalleled insight into their lives. After amassing a wealth of material, Fred published Our Story in 1988. It proved popular. Fred then wrote about Ronnie's life in Broadmoor. My Story published 5 years later. Top villains in there included the Yorkshire Ripper, who was not allowed to talk to Ronnie or even look at him. During Fred's show, video of the craze in Parkhurst and Broadmoor will be shown. Nefarious characters from the craze past, keeping a beady eye on Fred, concerned him. On my first day going to see Ronnie, walking towards Broadmoor intimidating gates, a white Rolls-Royce with blackened windows came alongside me. A window rolled down, a puff of cigar smoke came out, and a voice said he was a friend of Ronnie's. He asked if I was going to write a fair, honest book. I'll be watching, he warned, and with that he left. I later discovered it was Joey Pyle who ran London's underworlds at that time. When published, he rang me liked the book, and thanked me. It was a relief. Fred believes he never got the craze full story. It's extraordinary the appeal the craze held for celebrities. My first book showed them to be killers. They were quite forthright about that. Fred may not have made a mint from his books, but George Clooney was recently photographed with my story in his back pocket. Fred, who adores the island, is looking forward to visiting Shanklin Theatre for a first time. My view. I won't be feeling bleak this winter by Rebecca Roncoroni. As someone who is affected by seasonal affective disorder, discovering the reason for each season of the year and understanding the importance of each one has revolutionized the way I see what used to be the dreaded autumn and winter, and helped the feelings of sadness and doom at the appearance of everything dying in front of me. Now I see it totally differently. Discovering that when the trees shed their leaves in autumn, they are not only detoxifying themselves, but ensuring all the energy their leaves have harvested from the sun stays stored within the tree, and means the tree spends less energy throughout the winter. It also helps to conserve moisture within the trunk, to stop it drying out, and allows wind to blow through the bare branches, putting far less strain on the tree, an important consideration in winter storms and gales. Thus, the tree is in perfect position for slowly regenerating and bursting forth with new growth, as spring gives birth to the new life that has been quietly getting on with growing beneath the mud, frost, and cloudy skies. It was Judy Dench who started it with her 2017 BBC documentary, Judy Dench, My Passion for Trees, in which she explains that trees communicate through networks of fungi underground and send each other nutrients, supporting each other in a way I could never have imagined. Judy told us that some scientists maintain that trees can send distress signals to warn of potential dangers like disease or insect attack. There is a whole world beneath our feet that is busying, growing, communicating away all year, even in the bleak midwinter. The miracle of nature that on close inspection is fascinating. So autumn has started, and nature is starting to prepare for a period of shedding the old, conserving its energy, and lying dormant for a little while before it puts on its yearly shoe. I think we as humans could learn from this. Autumn is a beautiful time as the colors of our landscape change. There is a nip in the air. The nights draw in, and it's time to get the blankets, cozy, fleecy pajamas, watch the Great British Bake Off, and snuggle down with a warm, comforting beverage. With Halloween and Christmas looming, the dark evenings are perfect for making decorations, watching silly movies, playing games, warm baths, and early nights with a good book or box set. As a bonus, shaving can be forgotten for a few months, as who is going to see them anyway? Stews, soups, mashed potatoes, and hearty root, veg curries, as well as multiple cakes, are always winter comforters after a beautiful walk on one of our windswept beaches with the sea spray misting your face. No matter what the season, there is life springing and gestating everywhere. Now is our time to rest and regenerate for the next season for ourselves.
Public information. Don't be added to a scammer's victims list by Sally Ash, the Isle of Wight Against Scams Partnership. There are numerous types of scam mail, some more obvious than others. Be really wary of what you reply to, as once you have responded to a scam, you will be added to a victims list, which will be sold around the criminal fraternity, and you will be targeted relentlessly with a variety of scams. How does the scam work? A scam letter will be personalised to you. In the case of a lottery scam, they will use words like guaranteed winner, photographs of how previous winners have spent their money. In all cases, they will ask for a fee to claim your prize. This may be advertised as a delivery or admin cost. They will also try to obtain your personal details, such as bank account or date of birth. Be wary of letters offering discounted goods or samples. Always check the small print, as you may be entering a contract and agreeing to a direct debit without realising. They will ask for your card details for postage and then use this to take regular payments from your account. You cannot win a competition or lottery you haven't entered. If you are asked to pay an upfront fee for a win, do not pay. If you purchase goods in response to a mail offer, keep an eye on your bank accounts to ensure that money isn't taken without your permission. These contracts can be very difficult to cancel. You may have to cancel the payment card or direct debit that the payments are being taken from. Reporting a scam. For advice on scams, call Citizens Advice Consumer Helpline 0808 250 5050. To report a scam call, Action Fraud 0300 123 2040. For more information on scams, visit www.iwasp.org.uk.
What's on? Appraisals available for Isle of Wight older drivers. A relaunched driving skills appraisal service aims to help older motorists drive safer for longer. Older drivers have a wealth of experience, confidence and tolerance. However, sight, hearing, reaction time and judgment of speed and distance may not be as sharp as they once were. The older driver skills appraisal is a confidential and enjoyable appraisal of driving skills for island drivers aged 60 and over. It takes around 60 minutes and is conducted in the driver's own car with an approved driving instructor. ADI. ADI will be charged £50 for an appraisal. Lewis Campbell, the Council Road Safety Officer, said it was important to enter older age with as many good, safe driving habits as possible. For more information and to book a visit, contact the Council's website. Alternatively, a paper version of the form can be requested from lowlife/road safety. If you have a diagnosed medical condition that impacts your driving, this appraisal service may not be suitable, and it's recommended that you arrange an assessment via a driving mobility center.
What's on? Water improvements set to start in October. More than £9 million of work to upgrade Sandown wastewater treatment works is set to begin in October in an effort to better protect the local environment. It is part of an improvement programme for the island, which will run until 2025, with further schemes being carried out in Rowde, Shelfleet and Kelbourne to improve water quality and reduce storm overflows. In the Sandown scheme, a new storm tank and pipework will be installed, along with the technology needed to boost capacity and improve treatment processes. The island is already home to Southern Water's Sandown Pathfinder project, set up to help explore solutions to the water industry's reliance on a network of storm overflows, designed to stop homes and communities from flooding. Interventions to reduce the amount of surface water entering sewers include the installation of thousands of water butts, investment in treatment processes and capacity, and sustainable drainage systems. Martin Richards of contractor GTB said, "We are pleased to be working collaboratively with the Southern Water on this project to help improve water quality. This work will involve increased vehicle movements to the site. We would like to apologise in advance for any inconvenience our work may cause to those people living in this area."
New book launch for Island romance writer. Calves author Heather Cooper will celebrate the story behind her new historical romance novel at Freshwater's Dimbola later this month. In her latest novel, Arresting Beauty, Heather explores family, romance, Victorian culture, and self-realization through the previously unheard voice of a young girl. Arresting Beauty is based on the real-life Mary Ryan, who was found begging at the age of 10 by celebrated Victorian photographer Julia Margaret Cameron. Mary found herself poised between two worlds, that of a servant girl and as an artistic assistant, socializing with Tennyson and his circle. Author Heather grew up in a small village in northern Lancashire, moving to the island in 1981, where her son and daughter were born. Heather said, "I've long been an enthusiastic fan of Julia Margaret Cameron and her work. I often noticed a particular interesting face among her photographs, the face of a young woman whom I learned had been Julia's parlour maid. When I read that this girl, Mary Ryan, had begun her life in extremely impoverished circumstances, in fact, as a beggar girl, I began to imagine her story, told in her own voice." Heather is celebrating the book launch at a free event on the 30th of September between 5 and 7 p.m. at Dimbola.
Leisure Arts, Music and Comedy at Medina Theatre. Blake are proud to announce their concert at the Medina Theatre on the 30th of September 2023 at 7:30, and price of tickets is £28 to £25 for concessions. ABBA Mania are celebrating the years of ABBA. Europe's leading ABBA tribute, ABBA Mania, continue to entertain audiences with their outstanding vocals and music performances live on stage. So dust off your platforms, put on your flares, and come along and enjoy an unforgettable night with ABBA Mania on Saturday the 14th of October at 7:30. Tickets £28.50. The Unravelling Wilburys. This top tribute show is more than just a tribute. They are the complete package with their perfect combination of brilliant musicianship and tongue-in-cheek humour. They have had rave reviews throughout the UK, playing the country rock songs of the 1980s supergroup, the Travelling Wilburys. This is on Thursday the 19th of October at 7:30 and tickets are £20. Emilio Santoro as Elvis. Internationally acclaimed 20-year-old Emilio Santoro brings his award-winning Elvis Presley theatre show to the UK. Emilio has won both European and World Championships as Elvis in the past year and wowed America's Got Talent viewers with his appearance in the 2022 final. This is on Friday the 20th of October at 7:30 and tickets are £28.50 or £26 for concessions. Seriously Collins. Now in its 5th year and returning to the Medina with a brand new show, a genuine tribute to the biggest artists of our generation. Packed with hits and fan favourites, this 2-hour extravaganza will take you back to Phil on his heyday. Featuring the award-winning tribute to the man himself, Chris Hayward and his world-class 10-piece band, including the serious horn section, bring you Seriously Collins. No Phil Collins, Genesis show would be complete without the double drum kit duets. Seriously Collins is the show that fans deserve. It's on Saturday the 21st of October at 7:30 and tickets are £24.50 or £20.50 for concessions. Halloween Spooktacular, a fantastic family show. It treats all round this Halloween as made-to-measure production brings Halloween Spooktacular to town. You'll need to get ready for rib-tickling laughter and bags of audience participation as you join our intrepid explorers on the Halloween adventure of a lifetime. Jam-packed with your favourite Halloween hits and amazing ultraviolet puppetry, Halloween Spooktacular is guaranteed to bring a smile to children of all ages from 3 to 103. Don't miss your chance to see the UK's premier Halloween children's show this October, Thursday the 26th of October at 2 p.m. Tickets £14 adults, £13 children.
Events at Shankling Theatre. In October, Wednesday the 4th, Symphonics Queen. Thursday the 5th, Beyond the West End 2023. Friday the 6th, Simon Brodkin Screwed Up. Thursday the 12th, Beyond the West End 2023. Friday the 13th, the Island Dance and Theatre Company present Peter Pan. Again on Saturday the 14th, the Island Dance and Theatre Company present Peter Pan. On Thursday the 19th, Ronnie, Reggie and me with Fred Dinage. On Friday the 20th, Phil Wong. Wong in there, baby.
Letters to the editor. My letter of frustration. My disabled little boy currently requires regular liquid iron. I used the Southwhite Medical Practice e-consult form to obtain a prescription, and the response rate was rapid and accurate. Really good service, saving me a trip to the doctors and an appointment time somebody else can use. Unfortunately, the pharmacy didn't have any, so the lovely lady said she would put an order in for me, but suggested I tried another pharmacy to see if they had any. I tried 4, each time met by a very pleasant pharmacist, but sadly nobody had any. I tried St Mary's Hospital Pharmacy and Eureka. They had some. However, the very empathic lady apologised profusely, saying I couldn't have it because the hospital are not legally allowed to issue out prescriptions written by GPs. 1. The online service has proved highly effective. 2. The doctor wrote a prescription in a timely manner. 3. All pharmacists and receptionists have been very helpful and kind. And yet my son doesn't have his medication because legally the hospital can't issue it. I have no words. As a parent, I would be negligent to not give my son medication. However, the law prevents the hospital from issuing it. Viewing it from a professional standpoint, it's hardly surprising that hard-working and friendly NHS staff, GPs and doctors' receptionists get disillusioned and leave the profession. It's hardly surprising parents lose their temper when faced with this kind of frustration. Everybody has done everything correctly here, and given my son is without his medication, something is terribly wrong. Simple solution. Could we use a rubber stamp? So if I take the prescription to a pharmacy and they don't have it, they could stamp it, so the hospital can see they are the last resort. Or do we have to appeal to Parliament? Use time and money to change some law that needs some simple kind of caveat, as that's going to take a while and my son needs iron. I'm a huge fan of the NHS. They are absolute warriors, so I decided that instead of getting frustrated with lovely people, all of whom have done their job well, I'd write a letter.
Opportunities to Protect the Island by Bob Seeley, Isle of Wight MP. Thank you to Matthew Chatfield for his article about Isle of Wight landscape designation in the County Press on the 3rd of September 2023. He questioned its worth. It's an important question. Here is my response. The island is by nature a coherent whole. The island's area of outstanding natural beauty already protects around 50% of the island, but it is fragmented and frankly it is too bitty. In 2019, the entire island was recognized as a UNESCO biosphere, but this designation has no power in UK law. At the same time, the government has pledged to designate and protect much more of the UK, up to 30% of the UK's land by 2030. I believe that should include all the island. Earlier this year, I welcomed Environment Minister Trudy Harrison to the island to discuss my idea of a new level of designation in UK protected landscape, that of an island designation or an island park. Please note that this is not a national park, as I want the island designation to include not only our towns, but also marine life. National parks are only physical landscapes. Whole island designation should mean more recognition for the island's unique diversity of plant and animal life. It would mean more opportunities to protect the island's landscapes and habitats. It would be a visible sign of our celebration of the natural world. I believe it will be a worthwhile and worthy aim. Matthew also mentioned the need to adopt the island plan. I am urging councillors to agree and adopt the current version of the island plan as soon as possible. It is not perfect, and the housing numbers are too high. Some believe we need to start again and use the exceptional circumstance powers appreciated the government that the island needed. There is a risk that if we go more time without a plan, more bad developments are agreed. On balance, I believe we need to adopt this plan, whilst immediately reassessing our housing numbers to ensure greater landscape protection and a significantly greater focus on building affordable homes for islanders, young and old.
This is Mary saying goodbye.
And Gerard, goodbye.
The BBC In Touch programme follows. There is no scaffolding news this week.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Later today, an extraordinary story about an extraordinary boy. The account of a young blind boy in war-torn Yemen, a pupil turned teacher, and we'll be talking to the BBC's correspondent who brought us this story, Orla Guerin. But first, only a few months ago on this programme, we were reflecting on a growing development which it seemed could revolutionise the way blind people see the world. While many news outlets were worrying about the effects the growth of artificial intelligence, or AI, might have on the way we live, indeed our very existence, there was excitement amongst tech-savvy blind people that an increasingly sophisticated use of AI, called Be My AI, could provide a picture of our surroundings, the external environment, print material or pictures in print material, even the people we meet. But now, just as this exciting possibility has been offered with one hand, it seems it could be snatched away with the other. Concerns about privacy, particularly the processing of human images and human faces, could be threatening some of the system's most useful features. Well, the BBC's correspondent in the United States, Sean Dilley, himself blind, is one of those who's been using it, and he's been investigating these changes. He joins us to explain what's going on. Sean, first, just tell us a bit more about Be My AI and how it can be used to enhance the lives of visually impaired people.
Many people who are blind and very low vision would already be aware of an app that was available called Be My Eyes. And that app for the longest time has paired visually impaired people with sighted volunteers who agree to take calls. And essentially it might be, something as simple as, can you help me find my keys? What has been introduced under what they call beta testing to 15,000 users so far, me among them, is the use of an artificial intelligence engine, which essentially interprets everything that the camera sees, and it has a really, really, really scarily good go at telling you exactly what's around in all sorts of detail, much more than any human would manage. I was in a cafe in Washington, D.C. that I didn't know a couple of weeks ago. It told me that there were people sitting at tables. It told me that there was a restroom to the left with the men on the left and the women on the right. And it started offering to read me menu heading sections. So it really is next level stuff.
There are several types of bagels listed. Plain, sesame, cinnamon raisin.
But with this problem that we've got now, what would you hear now if you tried to do this?
Since last weekend, when you take any photo that has any human face in it, this is what it spits back at you.
The image you uploaded was blocked because it may contain faces or people.
I caught on social media other users explaining the frustrations that they'd had. One of those social media users, Claire Randall, posted her experience to Facebook, and I caught up with her to discuss that.
Now, you can't rely on it, basically. I couldn't use it out and about. I couldn't go to a shopping centre and take pictures of shops around me because there are likely people in them. I couldn't go into a cafe and try and find a counter because there are going to be people. So it's not going to allow me to see any of it. We've got CCTV everywhere in the UK. People have Ring doorbells where your videos are uploaded to their servers. You get vloggers and Instagrammers and people out filming their kids in parks and that kind of thing, where your picture is potentially going to end up in somebody's camera reel, if you will. So we are already photographed on a constant basis. It's just that now it's almost saying you're deliberately taking pictures, but I'm not. I'm just looking with my camera at the same thing as you would be looking at if you walked down the street. And it does seem like somebody has said, I know what we'll do. Let's give blind people the opportunity to see what's around them. And somebody's turned around and gone, no, that's a step too far. And it may not be an intentional thing, but that's how it comes across to a blind person.
That was Claire Randall. Let's go back to this issue of freedom, because this is really interesting. I've been looking on Facebook as well, and the kind of things that people are saying is people can see when somebody is, a particular shape, where Uncle Harry or Auntie Sally is a bit, let's say, overweight. Why should we be denied the same information?
It is a good question. And as a user, I'm right there with you. But the other side, and it's a serious point, is the difference is when people see Aunt Sally and whether she is or isn't rotund, would Aunt Sally, if she was walking the street, be happy with somebody taking a photo? And it does essentially, it has to upload it to the internet in some way. One of the concerns of privacy campaigners about all AI, not specifically this, is what happens to that data. Now, the people who make the GPT-4 engine that powers this, I think they say they generally only retain whatever data they have for a maximum of 30 days. But Peter, the ethical issues are enormous. For example, is it allowed not just to say that your Aunt Sally is a bit rotund? In this day and age where, for example, we're very conscious of not misgendering people, can it even say your Aunt Sally is a woman?
But as you've said, Sean, much of the work on this has been developed by the organisation Be My Eyes, along with a company called OpenAI. Well, earlier in the year, we spoke to Be My Eyes Chief Executive Mike Buckley. You've caught up with him more recently since these developments. How's he reacting now?
I did, Peter, yes. And I asked him why he thinks this feature has been blocked.
There are various regulations around the world that place a greater restriction on visual information, description, identification, etc. If you're OpenAI and you're navigating the incredibly complex patchwork of law and regulation here, you just have to be thoughtful and careful. So as you get closer to kind of generally launching something like this, you do a much deeper look at what the regulatory landscape is. Shame on us for not communicating better about the changes that happened. I think it took Be My Eyes a little bit of time to kind of communicate what's going on. It's not fair that people who are blind and low vision would not have access to these tools. And so we're going to do everything in our power to make it work. And that's going to require working with regulators. That's going to require working with blindness organizations, and it's going to require advocacy. And it will also require some technical prowess. I don't think this will happen, but I think the worst case scenario is you launch this app and for a period of time, it won't have face descriptions. But again, I think we're going to get past this. We should be able to find a way to reasonably protect privacy while enabling people who are blind and low vision to have equal access to the world. The harder part is getting there, right? And deciding where to draw the lines. But I don't think anybody disagrees with the end game.
That's Mike Buckley, Chief Executive of Be My Eyes. Just to come back to you finally, Sean, what do OpenAI say about this? Because they're the people who have made this decision at the moment, as far as we understand it.
They're saying nothing about it publicly. We've approached them for an interview. So unfortunately, very little light we can shed on behalf of OpenAI on this one. OK, so Sean, given that in science you can't usually put the genie back in the bottle, how at risk do you think we are of losing this development that seemed so promising? Everything and everyone I've been speaking to indicates that the functionality will return to some extent. It's also possible that, given, as we understand it, that this entire privacy experimentation has followed very restrictive laws in one particular jurisdiction. It's possible that you could end up seeing this function differently in one part of the world to another, almost an international postcode lottery of independence.
This is a story we're clearly going to continue to follow. Sean Dilley, thank you very much indeed. Now, one of the things I like to think is an In Touch trademark is featuring blind people who've done things which illustrate just how capable we can be and which go way beyond simply coping. Well, the other morning I was lying in bed listening, as I habitually do, to the Today programme when I heard an item which made me think we would have been proud to have featured that. And so I wanted to give it another airing here on In Touch for the many people who may have missed it. Our senior international correspondent, Orla Guerin, has been in Yemen, where, although there's been a ceasefire in its civil war last year, that only lasted for 6 months and the situation is far from stable.
I'm on the outskirts of the city of Taz, in a farming community surrounded by mountains. I've come to meet a young boy I first met 2.5 years ago when he was 9 years old. He's called Ahmed, and he was teaching a class in his local school, a bombed out shell of a building. We've come back to catch up with Ahmed and see how things are with him, with the school, and with the war that he's grown up in. He's been blind from birth. Ahmed, salam alaikum.
Salam.
Kif halik? I'm sitting with Ahmed and 3 of his sisters who are also blind. He's in a blue shirt with a navy trim and a navy waistcoat, and he's smiling, just the way I remember him. When was the last time you heard fighting and explosions?
Last night. It was very scary. We are scared of gunshots. When the fighting starts, we can't go to the park or the valley or anywhere. It's worse now. We only heard gunshots before. Now we hear bomb explosions, shooting, everything. When we hear it, we get scared and hide.
This was Ahmed as we first heard him, loud and clear. He was leading morning assembly at Al-Wahda Primary School. Ahmed wasn't just the star pupil. He was standing in as a teacher in a classroom with no windows and no desks. He gave us a wish list of repairs for the school, and our audience responded. Well, I've just come into the yard of the Al-Wahda Primary School, and what a difference since my last visit. To my right, there's a brand new school block. There are 6 classrooms. It looks like a proper school. Inside one of the new classrooms, we see rows of wooden desks and benches, and 4 walls and a roof, as Ahmed requested. A Yemeni donor built the new block, and a British charity donated the equipment. Ahmed sits in the front row, giving the changes top marks.
I asked for a school so we can study and learn. And for those who come after us, I hope I can study and learn until the end of time, and that the school will get even better.
What do you want to do when you finish school?
What job?
I want to be a teacher and a pilot and an engineer and a driver or a doctor. I want to be everything.
Do you think you'll be able to do all these things?
Yes, sure. I will do everything, and I will marry a beautiful girl from the city, and she will make me biscuits. The girls in the village don't know how to make good biscuits. The city girls can make delicious biscuits, so good you lick your fingers.
As the sun goes down, Ahmed splashes about in the river near his home. He has already overcome so much. This child of war is full of hope.
It's a wonderful piece, and I'm delighted to say that we're joined by Orla, who, although she's very busy in Ukraine at the moment, has taken the time to join us. I just wanted to ask you a bit more about Ahmed. We hear that wonderfully alive voice, but perhaps can you tell us a bit more about him? What does he look like?
He's the most incredibly lively character, Peter. And when I think of him, what I always think of is his smile, which really lights up his face. He's very curious. He's very humorous. He's full of enthusiasm for life. He's an extremely bright, very clever boy and full of ambition and full of hope.
Is it a school specifically for blind pupils where he's teaching?
Not at all, Peter. And when we went to the school the first time, it was January of 2021 on a previous visit to Yemen. And we went to the school simply to take a look at how children were trying to learn in these awful conditions, literally sitting in the rubble in the shell of a building. And we noticed Ahmed taking part in morning assembly. He was leading it. But nobody said this is a particularly special boy. We just saw him and assembly finished and he disappeared into a classroom, and my colleague, our cameraman Gokte, happened to look into the classroom and saw him actually standing at the front and realised he was teaching. And then we also learned he was blind. All of the teaching that he does is based on repetition. This is how he learns. We were assured by the teachers there that he was not only the top student, but also that he was a fantastic stand-in teacher. And when I said to him, do you have any trouble keeping order? And he said, not at all. They do exactly what I say.
I can imagine that. I sat up in bed sharply when I heard him talk. You would, wouldn't you? How come that he was teaching? I mean, is there a shortage of teachers available, or is it just that he's so unusual that they get him to do it?
Well, education in Yemen, sadly, is another casualty of the civil war, which has dragged on now for almost a decade. And just to give you a bit of wider context, more than 2 million children across the country are out of school, and as many as 20% of the schools are not in use. So in Ahmed's area, there are teachers employed to come to school. Sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. Many teachers, like many doctors in Yemen, have not been paid in years. So the teachers don't always turn up. And on occasions when they don't turn up, Ahmed is very, very happy to stand in. And initially, when I met him, he told me at that time that his ambition was to be a teacher. Now, this time when we went back, there were a few more job descriptions added to the long list of things that he wants to do. But I think teaching is very much in his heart.
We'll come on to one of those ambitions in a minute. But I noticed you mentioned he has 3 blind sisters. I mean, how are they doing? And can you tell us a bit more about them? And I wonder what their prospects are. Are they as good as a boy's would be in Yemen?
Well, I think the family is certainly in a very difficult situation. There are 4 children in total who are blind and then another child who is partially sighted. But Ahmed's father, although he's of modest means, he and his wife are clearly firm believers in education, and they have sent all of their children to be educated despite the difficulties. Now, when we originally met Ahmed, we had hoped that we might be able to arrange for him to begin to learn Braille. And there was a Braille teacher available in the nearby city of Taiz, but his family was understandably very concerned about him having to travel every day from a frontline area into the city. So it wasn't possible to arrange that tuition for him. And it's worth pointing out that where he lives is still just 600 metres from an active front line. And even though the ceasefire in Yemen was in effect for 6 months, and it has generally been quieter since, this is still a country at war.
I'm not sure whether you'd know about this, but I was just wondering whether the prospects for blind girls in Yemen might be a bit more limited than for blind boys.
Well, it can often be the case in Yemen and across the Arab world that women are given fewer opportunities and find fewer opportunities later on in the workplace. I think with Ahmed's sisters, their father is certainly making sure that they receive an education, but certainly there is still pressure on Yemeni women often to marry and have children, and indeed sometimes to marry young. So they will certainly face a different set of circumstances and probably a different set of expectations than Ahmed will.
Just one last thing, Orla, prompted really by that point you were making. You come across as a very strong and successful woman. I wondered if you thought that however wonderfully capable Ahmed comes across as, he might take a few lessons in equality. You know, wouldn't you expect him to be able to make his own biscuits?
To be honest, when he came out with that, I just laughed. I thought it was a classic Ahmed comment, and a lot of what he says is very cheeky and very playful and said in fun. And he has a very sweet relationship with his own sister Fatima, and he is very protective of her. So I think at heart, I have no doubt that Ahmed will want the best for his sisters as much as for himself.
Well, Orla, thank you for telling us that great story.
My pleasure.
And that's it for today. As always, we welcome your comments and your experiences. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, leave your voice messages on 0161 836 1338, and you can get more information on visual impairment from our website, bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter White, producer Beth Hemmings, and studio managers Amy Brennan and Liam Juniper, goodbye.